Well, with a certain expansion coming out in the near future, I have finally decided to dive into Diablo 4.
Only took you like a year and a half.
Only took me. Yes, it took me so long, and I mean, there's a reason for that, right? I think I don't know if I've spoken about it on the show, but we got review code for Diablo, like I don't know, a week or two before I left the country. So it's like I played an hour. I remember we spoke about it for about an hour last year sometime, and you went. I think you had reviewed it, or you went on to whatever you had played it. I hadn't played it much, and then I moved, and then by the time I got set up, it was Final Fantasy 16 time, and then all the other stuff that followed that last year. And this year I've just been busy with other stuff, and finally I felt like there was enough downtime. And with the is it Vessel of Hatred?
Vessel of Hatred, yeah.
With Vessel of Hatred around the corner, I was like, I love Diablo. Maybe it's time to just quickly jump in. And let me tell you, I don't know why it took me so long to play this game, because it is real good. I played Diablo 3 during its hellish launch period. I still enjoyed it. Like, I acknowledge it had problems. I played the Reaper of Souls expansion a bunch. Grateful for the changes. Played a lot of that. So I love this game. I mean, I even played Diablo Immortal on mobile. I finished that campaign on mobile, did dailies. So there's a formula here that I obviously enjoy and millions of others enjoy. And Diablo 4 is also just full. It's I'm sure it's on sale now going into the expansion. It's also on Game Pass if you do have.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think it's on Game Pass.
It's on Game Pass,
and I think
now.
the expansion's coming to Game Pass too.
I don't know if it is coming to Game Pass. It hasn't been clear to me.
Let me check. Sorry, you can carry on.
No, because I have wondered. I mean, that would be a huge win, I think, for Microsoft to be like, hey, Diablo 4's expansion is on Game Pass if you want to play it there.
It will not be coming to Game Pass at launch.
I thought it wouldn't, because it, to me, from a business point of view, it makes sense as a Microsoft to get Diablo 4 on Game Pass, get people hooked, and then get money by getting
purchase the expansion,
buying the expansion. But I can tell you, I don't know what the expansion will hold, but the base game a year on, look, you would know better than me because you played during launch, but I think Diablo 4 is very good state. I haven't hit endgame yet. I think I'm level 40, so I'm getting there. I've put in like 8 to 10 hours, and playing Rogue, just enjoying the, that classic formula of you push a whole lot of buttons, things explode, gold drops, you level up, you keep doing it.
So you're playing on console?
I'm playing on console, and I'm playing on both actually, so I can. In the year 2024, cross progression is a thing. Can you believe it?
Yeah, you can hop between them.
It's wild to think that this just wasn't a normal feature like 3 to 5 years ago.
Yeah, not even that long ago. Yeah,
it's because I mean we had the review copy, right, that we got last year. So I downloaded that on PS5. I've had it on my PlayStation for months now, and I launched it. Diablo 4 came to Game Pass, and I was like, like. I've always played it on PC. Let me just download it on PC, pair my accounts, everything. There's my character I made last year. I was like, oh, okay. So I can just bounce between the two. And I have. There's been times where I'm chilling on the couch going, I'm going to play it all. There's other times I've been playing games with friends on PC, and then they bounce off, and I'm like, well, let me just do a bit of Diablo right here. And let me tell you, controller is a really fun way to play this game. It actually works.
Yeah, I think it works super well on controller.
Controller, and you wouldn't think it does, but it works very well on controller. Is PC the better way to play? Like, maybe maybe it's a little bit easier to like go through your inventory and stuff, but controller, it's just everything's assigned to a good key, and it just feels good, doing all your abilities and running around. But yeah,
I definitely think they've struck a middle ground where Diablo 3 was so very obviously made for consoles, down to its simplification of leveling and builds and, the control scheme around that. I think Diablo 4 definitely goes back to more. It is, to me, a very good balance between 2 and 3,
100%.
where it has the depth of builds that 2 had to an extent, but also it's way easier to navigate and easier to understand.
Yeah.
As opposed to 2, which, I mean, I played the Diablo 2 remaster when it came out, or what was it called, Resurrect or whatever.
Yeah.
And even with that, it's like, oh, if you do not follow specific builds to the T, you will just the game will be completely unforgiving on you. Yeah, you will just not be able to progress.
Remind me, Diablo.
And I think 4 strikes a good balance of not needing to do that so often.
Diablo 2, you could obviously choose your abilities, but you'd have to assign your stats as well.
Yeah, you could completely hard lock yourself out of progressing in that game.
Which is interesting because I remember playing Diablo 3 and being very disappointed that I couldn't do that. And I think it pissed off a lot of people that it's like, well, your build variation comes into like just figuring out which abilities work well together. And you're right, 4 is a good balance of the two where you're not exactly assigning stat points or anything, but you have like a branching skill tree. But it's also been modernized in that you're not hard locked into a build. You can refund abilities and then reassign them elsewhere if you want to for a cost. I mean, but even that cost, I don't know, late game, but it's not breaking my bank account.
No, it never really gets too expensive. I mean, I think the idea is for you to experiment with 100%. Builds.
I mean, I get a legendary drop. It's like, oh, it does this and this with this ability. I'm like, I haven't even used that ability. Let me just respec to try it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, and there's a lot of that, just experimenting. And I know when it gets to, the late or post game, that's when I go, okay, cool. Like, I like this build. This is kind of what I'm going to stick with. But until then, I'm just enjoying experimenting with, I obviously have my own build in mind, but when I get an item that forces me to, well, not forces me, but incentivizes the use of an ability that I haven't used, I'm like, well, I can try it. It takes me 2 seconds to respec on my skill tree. So that's very cool.
And I think they've done some smart things around that as well, where it's like, I don't know if you've messed around with aspects of power much yet, but they're essentially like abilities that are they're weapon upgrades that are tied to specific build abilities, but they allow you to imbue any weapon with that like skill. So like you can be like, I really like this legendary weapon or whatever, but I'm missing the sort of passive it helps with my current build. Like if you have that aspect, then you can just combine the two and kind of have the best of both worlds. And aspects are something you unlock and you have forever. So now any weapon you have, you just pay a fee and you can pop that aspect onto there. Like they will never beat a full on, perfect legendary drop or something, but it does give you some flexibility with like, especially late game stuff. There's smart things like that I think Diablo 4 does extremely well. And I think you're playing at a time where they've really honed in on, the sorts of things that people really like. I think at launch it was good. It's definitely better now. But I think they also went through a pretty painful period where they were trying to figure out like what the correct balance was for loot, what the correct balance was for like scaling of power. And, a lot of those big changes they're there already, but they're coming through with the patch that is coming out with the expansion, which will, be free whether you get the expansion or not. And the idea there is to like squash power levels. So like numbers are smaller. Your level cap is now 60 as opposed to, I think it's currently 100. And your leveling is, supposedly a lot quicker. I mean, it's quicker now than it was at launch, but
I found it pretty quick.
The patch is meant to accelerate it even further. Their goal is to try and get you into the end game. Like they want you there as quickly as possible. Yeah. Which I think is smart because when I enjoyed this game when it first came out, when I reviewed it, but I did feel like I had to play the full campaign and even, do a lot of side quests to even touch the level cap. And even then it was like, cool, I got to the end game and I still had to grind a bit to even unlock some of the end game stuff. I think now that's no longer a thing. You get to the end of the campaign and you can just go.
Is there a level cap on the campaign itself?
So, okay, this is where I'm trying to like discern what's actually in there and what's not in there because I haven't played in a while. Do they have like not world tiers? are areas in the game still denoted by a level?
They
Like-
are, but it's interesting because. So I'll tell you why I'm asking, because I spent a lot of time in Act 1. Just like absolutely dicking around, running around the map, doing everything I saw basically. Like if there's a dungeon or a world event, whatever, I was there doing it. And I think I was like level 25 or 30 before I'd even finished Act 1. So I was like, shit, like I wonder if I'm going to reach level 50 or 60 and then it's going to hard lock me until I roll credits on the campaign. So you don't have to give me an answer. I was just more wondering if you knew off the top of your head, if like, will I be able to get to level 100, whatever the cap is in Act 3, for example, or is it like, will you? Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you will. I mean, I had the reverse problem when I was reviewing it where
like
because
I can't
of
level fast enough.
it literally, yeah, because I'm trying to, not rush, but I'm trying to play this at a brisk pace, and the game is demanding you to be certain levels to be in certain areas, because it's like, well, enemies here are level 60 or level 70 or whatever, and it's like you will just get absolutely wrecked if you walk into here and you're not even close to that. So that's something the new patch addresses as well. It's like they've done away with that completely. It's now enemies will scale to your level.
Yeah.
So as you do the campaign and walk around the map, like you will still be presented with a challenge, and you can increase that challenge by increasing your difficulty levels, but it will no longer be like this area is specifically for level 80 players. And again, I think that goes down to like not slowing you down during the campaign, letting you experience that to get to the end game. That's the important bit. So yeah, it's cool changes like that. And even then, like what you're talking about sounds fundamentally different to what I played, especially when it comes to loot. So, it's Diablo is a live service game now. That's what they are.
Yeah.
And they reward people. I mean, Diablo 3 was that as well. It's just we didn't have that name for it then.
Yeah.
They went on for years and years doing Paragon seasons and, altering how you could do that and stuff. And I think Diablo 4's got a long time ahead of it to do the same. It's generated a shit ton of money for Activision Blizzard, so it's just also cool that it is, I think, a good game.
Yeah, it's a good game, and it's interesting. Oh, it's one of those things where the reality is it does just get better with time. I think I take my hats off to people who make games like this, because I can't imagine the nightmare of balancing it. Because it is like, you've got so many classes, so many abilities, so many enemies, and it's like, how do you strike a balance of, making the player feel strong, but, not making it like a breeze to play through? And then how do you ensure that you're giving them just enough reward for the effort? Like how many legendaries do you drop, X, Y, Z? Like, it must be such a nightmare trying to
It's a fine balance, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, and the same happened with Diablo 3, where that game launched, and I mean, it was riddled with errors and launch, don't get me wrong, and like there were things that were frustrating about it. But that game, when Reaper of Souls landed, that was just like a year or two later, it just fixed so much that was wrong with that game. And that was like, whoa, okay, Diablo 3 is really, really good now. And like, I think Diablo 4 is definitely in a better state than Diablo 3 was at launch. But it's quite cool to think that the expansion's coming, and they've obviously, like you said, they've got all these things planned, for free, regardless of whether you're buying the expansion or not. And I'm quite keen to see, like, I'm really enjoying it. I can't imagine what it must feel like to be, somebody who's played day one, you're seeing all these things change, making the game better and better. And you're right, it's going to be around for, it's like, Diablo 4 is like a year old now, just over a year.
I think it came out like early last year, if I'm not mistaken. Well, you said it happened just before you moved, so it must have been like May, April-ish, yeah.
This game's going to be around for so many years before we even dream of Diablo 5.
Yeah. No. This is like, I mean, Diablo 3 came out, 2012?
Yeah, a lifetime
2011,
ago.
around about there, yeah. It's going to have a super long tooth, and I think, I think it's in a good place now, so that doesn't mean it can only get better. Like there will be seasons, I'm sure, where they go, that didn't work. And I think that's already happened in this first year. But I think they're very willing to, take take losses on the chin and move forward. And I've seen a lot of positive sentiment on this current season, and a lot of positive, feelings towards the changes that are coming.
Yeah.
So I hope it works out. But yeah, I wanted to ask, what are you thinking of the story, by the way? Just like very quickly.
I'm enjoying it. I mean, it's still early days, but it's quite interesting.
I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's not like the big man himself, Diablo, and it's Lilith. And it's I'm still trying to understand what her big plan is, because she's obviously going around causing chaos in Sanctuary, but I don't know what the end goal is yet. But it's very good. Very dark stuff that happens. I'm like, whoa, this game is pretty dark. But I'm enjoying it.
What I really liked about the story, and I think you'll get more of this as you go, is that Lilith is a really, really good antagonist because she's not Diablo.
Yeah.
Diablo is very one note. He's I am big
evil.
bad, big evil. And you can tell from the beginning, Lilith is not that. Like, she is doing things for a purpose, and there is this very gray area that the game operates in, where it's like, oh yeah, this is a battle for like heaven and hell that's playing out on Earth. But, Anarius, the big angel you get to deal with in this one, he's not really a great dude.
Yeah,
either.
I've seen that, yeah.
And
it's
like the sort of church he's like leading here, not great people.
Yeah.
So the idea of Lilith coming in and being like, yeah, this is pretty fucked up what's happening on Earth here. Also, I got royally fucked by Anarius and the angels. You like, I don't think you ever go to the point where it's like, cool, I'm going to side with you and join you. But it's like, she's way more complex than just the prime evils were in the previous games. And I like that a lot. I really enjoyed her character. And I think it makes for probably the best Diablo story out there. So I'm really curious to see how the expansion builds on that.
Yeah, same. Well, yeah, I still need to roll credits, but
it's good. It ends very well, I think. It's really, really fun.